Hi ladies! So I'm back with the third card for November 2018 for our Stamping Club. There's the hostess code and I'll put it on the website as soon as I get finished the videos. So this is the third card, and while you're looking at that, I'm just going to check on my blog, or sorry, on our Facebook group to make sure I've oriented it properly, because I did have issues with the first one and I don't want issues with the second one. Okay, good. All right. I'm just going to move my light because I was having issues with shadowing before. There we go. So this is the card. I received this in a swap. I'm just going to pull out the original one because there's a couple of differences in the cards. So I received this in a swap from Dorian Hewitson, who lives in Port Lambton, Ontario. So there's my version. So here's her version. So she sponged along the edges, and I'm going to do that in the one I make on the video. But she made, it's made with a regular size card base. Yeah, mine fell into the ink pad. So, like, don't look at that part. So it's made with a regular size card base, and then you do a foldy thing that brings this whole thing in a little bit. And she put a full-sized piece of Mary Merlot on there. So this is mine, and I didn't. I used a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece, so that you can see the card base underneath, and you just have to be a little bit more aware of when you put your inside piece on of where it's going, so it gets covered up. But it still sits there properly because it sits on this point and it sits on the back. See, it'll still stand up. It just, I thought it looked a little less clunky than this one. So this, we're going to be making this one, and I'll do the sponging on it like she did. So I haven't prepped the base yet because I wanted to show you on the video how to do the base. So let me just find, there it is, my card base. So you start with a regular 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 piece, and this is thick Whisper White. It's scored in the middle. Now, how do you know where to fold? Well, once again, we're going to be using the grid paper, and I'm just going to move this up a bit so the grid paper comes more in line with where you're seeing. So you center it, and I'm using 8 inches as my center, and the reason I do that is because if I need up here, that's where the darker line is. So you just put a little measurement right there at the halfway point, and then 1/4 inch on each side of that mark. And then you turn it and you mark it 3/8 of an inch up from the center fold. Okay, so once again, you measure in the middle, this way, you measure in the middle, and then 1/4 inch on either side of the center, and then 3/8 of an inch up. And then we're going to get out the score tool, as we have to score it. Now, I took a pencil and did a really dark line down here on the 6th, because then I can use this as a diagonal as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is line up the score line and the center line with that mark. Now, see why I've used the pencil? Because now when I get down here, I can still see the pencil, and I know that I'm on the same line. So you just do a score line this way, and then move it over line up that mark at 3/8 of an inch and the mark at 1/4 of an inch and do the score line. Now you can always go over it again and make it a little bit deeper. And then you turn it and you do the same thing. So I'm lining up my score line here and the center mark there. And don't forget to take your time doing that because you want it to be precise. So now I moved it over and I'm lining up that 1/4 of an inch mark and the 3/8 of an inch mark in the groove. So I can do my next score line. So there, can you see the score lines now? Now the reason I've done it on the back is just because I don't want to see those tick marks when I make the card, just in case it all doesn't come off. But it doesn't matter. If you want to flip things around and do funky things with it, go ahead. Okay, so now you're going to take the first line and fold it in and burnish it. And then I'm going to take the other line and fold it forward and burnish it. So see what I've done? I folded back first and then I folded this way. So that gives you that. Put this back here. That gives you this. See how you get that there? Isn't that cool? When I first saw this card, I thought, now that is an awesome fold. And we're going to make that. And then, of course, having it hanging on my wall, all the people that come to my craft room have seen it. There we go. So there. Now, you need, that's how you get that point at the end there. See? That's like that. Now, before you do anything else, if you want to sponge it, this is the spot you have to sponge it. So I'm using Mary Merlot. I'm just going to fold that under. Do a little bit of sponging on that edge, just like that. See how I'm doing that? Right down to the point. Now we'll fold that one up and fold this one under. Do the same thing. Now you don't have to do this part. I didn't do it on my first one, but I thought I'd do it on the second one just so you get an idea. So now when I do that fold thing, get things under there, see you see it a little bit better. But before I carry on, we're going to do the stamping. We're going to do the Christmas wishes and the filigree thing because I didn't the first time around. And now I wish I had. Because, well, it worked out, but it was a little bit more difficult. Okay, so I have the big filigree, and you're wondering what stamp set this is from. I know you are. So this is Merry Christmas to All. This is the one that has the Merry Christmas dies. So there's we're using that, and we're using this. And then these come from Rooted in Nature. So it's just the leaves. And we're going to use the Stamparatus to make that around in a circle. Yeah, and then I'm sorry, but then there's some hand cutting, some fussy cutting. But that's okay. I like fussy cutting. So I'm going to put one of these here. Oh, that worked better. And one the other way. Okay, there's that done. Now get the Christmas. Stamp the Christmas up at the top. And you want to make sure you go up quite a ways so you can get the wishes in there and not have it covered up by your poinsettia. There's Christmas and wishes. I think instead of putting it in the center, let's see what it's. So her original one is centered, and I centered mine, but what happens if I put it over a bit? Nothing says it has to be centered. Would have been better if I had to put it on there without the curve in it, but oh well. Now I'm going to stamp these filigrees while I'm there. So I think I'll put these a little bit different. Maybe. Sure, why not? Why not? There we are. Okay, so that's all the stamping done on the front. Now we're going to put it together. Now I have some really thin tape that I'm using. Tumble will work. Or you can cut your 1/4" tape in half. That will work too. And you want to make sure you have tape going right from one end to the other. Now I'll have that tape at club if you want to use it. So now we're just going to take it, fold it under like this and tape it down. So I'm just doing the folds because they've kind of come undone since I did the stamping. I'll just take the liner off. And all I did was put tape between the 2 score lines. And you push it under. There we are. It's just that easy. Oh, guess I shouldn't have had it up quite that high. Oops, it's gonna cut this extra. I don't want this sticking to stuff. It's not a big deal because when you put this on, it goes almost to the top anyways. Okay. That one's down. This one, you do the same thing. You just hold it, push it under, and glue it down. There we go. Now, the Merry Merlot piece goes on here like this. Adhesive on. Come on, get it right in the corner. And just remember that your paper's not going to go right up to the top. So if you want, you can put your adhesive on the top of the Merry Merlot piece. That way you're not going to have the adhesive up here where you're not going to have your paper. Okay, so then I just put this here like this and just closed it onto itself. There we are. I do have a little bit of tape hanging out right there. I'm just gonna push it underneath there. Oh, don't you even see it. So there we are. It's not that hard making this fold, as long as you get your marks in the right place. Okay, so now we have to make that piece. And although it looks difficult, it's really not. It's just time consuming. And there's two of them. They're layered one on top of the other, and I'm going to stamp one for you so that you have it already done. So I made a jiggy. A little jiggy thing. So this is what you're going to do, and we're going to stamp around. So I cut out a 4 inch, let me see, 3.5 by 3.5 inch circle. And then I used my grid paper and took that circle piece and turned it. Let me see if I still have it in here. There it is. So I cut this out of the center, out of there. And then I turned it and lined the points up on I made marks on the grid paper, and I lined that up, and then I cut that out. And I used my paper trimmer to do it. And you just put your cardstock in here like this, ink up your stamp and stamp it, and then turn it a quarter of a turn, ink up your stamp and stamp it. And you do that all the way around. Okay. It's got to make a little bit of room here. Get my Merry Merlot out. And we're going to... I should have had one of these stamped already. My apologies, because now you're going to have to put up with me stamping two of them. And turn it a quarter of a turn. And ink up the stamp. And stamp it. And turn it a quarter of a turn. Isn't this a cool technique? Let me tell you, if you don't have one of these Stamparatuses yet, why not? Holy man. Can't tell you how cool this thing is. And there's so many different techniques you can do. And not only that, but if you're making more than one card, if you're making more than one card, they'll all be stamped in exactly the same spot. And the good news is that now they have extra plates available. You get 2 plates with it, and you have 2 sides, so you can have 4 stamps set up. But if you order another set of plates, then you can set up 8 stamps and just be sticking it in there and stamping it and carrying on. So see, that's how easy it is to stamp this. The hardest part is getting it lined up in the paper. So there's one. And we'll just whip the second one up. And you can see that I'm getting ink on my plate and I'm getting ink on the edges of the stamp, but it doesn't matter because it will not transfer to your cardstock. Well, I shouldn't say that. If you push super duper hard, it will. But why would you? You don't need to push all that hard. And if you ink it up and you don't stamp it hard enough, you just ink it and stamp it again before you move your cardstock. And because your cardstock hasn't moved, the stamp will go back in exactly the same spot. Now there is some tutorials out there on how to stamp with different colors at the same time. So they're using the trees from Winter Woods and stamping it in different colors. I recently made a card for the swap that my team is doing, and it has, I stamped a sentiment in a color, and then I stamped it in one of the shimmer paints on top of it. And I could, because by getting the cardstock right up in the top corner and getting it set in there right, it didn't move. It was in the same spot. So there we are. It didn't take too long to whip up a couple of those. Now, you're just going to quickly cut out one of these. So, the new shimmer paints. Have I told you guys about the new shimmer paints? Well, maybe when I make this flower before we put it on that card, maybe we should use the Champagne Mist shimmer paint on it. I used the bright copper on my swap card, and holy moly, is it ever gorgeous. Not only did I stamp the sentiment and then stamp again on top with the bright copper shimmer paint, but I also spritzed a tree in it. Is it a tree? Okay, now that I've told you, I'm going to have to show you, aren't I? Hey, I will, when I get this cut out, I will show you the swap card. I'll go and dig it out. See, it doesn't take too long to cut these out by hand, because there's not really any jiggies that you have to cut around. There it is. Now let me get that swap card so I can show you. Okay, so I used Winter Woods. So here's the swap card. And I'm going to stand up and see if I can get it. Can you see the shimmer? I can't tell on my phone whether it's shimmer. I spritzed the trees with the bright copper, and then I stamped this in real red and then stamped it again in a bright copper over top of it. And you see that? I'm hoping it shows. I'm just looking on the... I'm not sure that it is showing. So let me go down a bit. Anyways, that's my swap card. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly do the second one. So there's 4 colors of the shimmer paint. There's Champagne Mist and Frost White. And those are the ones we used to sell. About 4 years ago, I guess, we stopped carrying them. Now they have Vegas Gold, and I haven't tried that one yet, must be honest, and Bright Copper. And they're water-based, and they're, you know, the stuff that comes out of the Wink Stella? It's kind of like that stuff, but it's paint. hang on. This is the container it's in. So this is the bright copper. And it's got a little plastic ball in there so that it helps mix it when you shake it. And you can use it straight like that. You can sponge it onto things. You can use a dauber. You can daub it onto your stamp, which is what I did for the sentiment. I just daubed it right onto my stamp. And don't let it sit too long on your stamp because mine is now permanently bright copper. It's got a bit of a sheen to it, which doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't affect the use of it at all. You can put it in spritzers and mix it with 70% rubbing alcohol. And the recipe is about an ounce of rubbing alcohol to about 10 drops of shimmer paint. But if you want more, add more. If you want less, add less. It's not really cast in stone. The only thing is you can't use the 99% rubbing alcohol because the shimmer in these things are little ground up metal flakes or something. And the 99% rubbing alcohol glums it into a big lump at the bottom. So these are our spritzers. And I just fill it up to about there with rubbing alcohol and add 5 or 6 drops of the paint in it. And then you just give it a, oops, the lid fell off. You just give it a good shake and then you can spritz it. These are really fine spritzers. I like them. They're really good. So that's the bright copper. This is the champagne mist. And I did the same thing. So I have a box. I have a spritzing box because it will go everywhere. I'm going to show you because I'm going to do these ones. So this is my spritzing box and it's just an empty Stampin' Up box. And you put your projects down inside it. Get your spritzer, give it a really good shake, make sure it's all mixed up. Make sure you're spritzing down because, yes, I've done it in my face before. And then you just spritz. Now you have to be really careful because the alcohol will make the color run a bit. Do you see how it's running there? If you don't like that, don't use these on color. I don't mind it. I think it's cool. Just getting rid of the box. So there's the spritz on there. Is that ever beautiful? I'm hoping that this is coming through. I'm watching on the TV to see if I can, maybe I need to get closer. Anyways, it's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, back to what we're doing. Just have to let that dry a bit. So I think while it's drying, I'll just do the inside and the envelope. Okay, so the inside, where's mine? Here it is. So I just used, this one I used both of the filigrees. I think I'm just going to use the little one. And then I did some sponging. And this is where you have to be really careful that you get it exactly underneath that. So while those dry, oh, we haven't stamped the leaves yet either. So this is the inside one, inside piece. There we are. And the envelope. And because I can turn it, I will. And I think I'll put a couple on the back too. There we are. need to use the same stamp, the leaf stamp, and stamp some leaves for in behind. You need 3 of them. And there's a die for these. So I'm just going to quickly cut some out. I think I should have been a little bit more prepared to make this card than I was, obviously. There's one. You can cut these out by hand too. There's 2. 1 more to go. And the last one is done. There we are. So now these are dry and sparkly. Use a little bit of adhesive on the center and just offset them and line them up. Get my card out. And this is going to go on here like this. Or you can do it like this. You don't have to have it lined up at the bottom, but I like it. So I'm not going to put adhesive right to the edges. I kind of want I want to have, let's see, which way do I want it? Or that way? No, this way. I want the edges to be free floating, and I want to be able to shove the leaves underneath. So I'm just going to lift those up and put the leaves underneath. And I'm just putting a bit of tape on the back of them. You can use Tombow too if you want. There we are. So the only thing I got left to do is the center. And I haven't colored these yet, but I'm going to have to. I'm hoping I have enough. Maybe I'll use just one big one on it. I don't recommend doing this with your blends because these are faceted and they got hard bumps on them. But if you go real slow and don't push, just go very lightly, then you can color your clear any color you want. And I'm just using the dark Daffodil Delight. There we are. Now we have the inside to put in, whatever I did with it. There it is. Now this one I sponged around the outside, so I think I'll do that again. And then I'll show you how to get it lined up. I don't do a lot of sponging. I prefer to have the marker around. But this time we're sponging. Okay, so now you put your adhesive on this. Now, if you open it up, line this up with, see, I'm lining it up with the Mary Merlot piece. And then just close it and push it down. Then it's exactly where it needs to be hidden by the Mary Merlot piece. There you are. How's that? So there it is with sponging on it and without sponging. What do you think? Pretty, eh? So maybe I will leave these. I won't color them. You guys can decide if you want 3 little ones or a big one. And I'll color them in class. There's the envelopes. There we are. We're done. Those are the 3 cards for November. And I'll see you soon in my craft room on Wednesday, November the 14th. And our hostess this month is Joyce. Thanks, ladies. See you soon. Bye for now.